Alright, so I'm going to look at political vision. So just to kind of give you a little kind of overview of this, actually just quickly touch on what Mark said about the spheres. So the idea with PPSUK is that the kind of systems of group-based hierarchy that emerge through each of these different spheres is a function of the type of institution and how it works presently. So what we're about is trying to look at alternative institutions that get these kinds of tasks that Mark said, to get them done, but in accord with our kind of values, so they don't have the kind of nasty effects that they do currently. So in terms of polity, political system, I'm going to look at why do we need an alternative political vision, what happens in a political system, different types of polity, so kind of historically and theoretically as well, and then what values a good polity would have. Okay, and then hopefully we're going to move towards participatory polity. That's why you came. Okay, so why alternative vision? Yeah, so basically, Mark started to say as well, if you want social change, if you think about those ABCs of social change, it's useful to know where you want to head. So it's useful to know what you're kind of, hopefully, it's never really final and social, but roughly your goal, where you want to go. So it helps to guide your tactics and your strategy in the present. And then also because, of course, many of the systems and institutions that produce kind of group-based hierarchy in terms of racism, sexism, classism, economic inequality, they're all really bad, and it's right that we're against these things and we campaign against them and the effects of them. But also it's, I think, important to know what you're for as well as maybe what you're against, or what you're definitely against. So yeah, this is kind of one of the rationales for vision. I think Tina, Michael Albert talks about Tina as well, it's a really good way of conveying this. So this is this, there is no alternative. So if you think about this notion that there is no alternative to the present, say, political or economic or whatever kinship kind of institutions, then this is a really good way of pacifying populations, keeping them away from participation and away from social change. So this is another reason that vision is important, is because compelling alternative detailed institutions are a way to show that, hey, well, there is an alternative, so team is wrong. Yeah, and this kind of should lead to empowerment and hope and all those kinds of great things. So let's go to, slips off a bit, this anarchist roots. I love this quote by Proudhon, kind of, to be governed is to be watched over, inspected, spied on, directed, legislated, regimented, closed in, indoctrinated, preached at, controlled, assessed, evaluated, censored, commanded. Then at first sign of resistance or word of complaint, one is repressed, fined, despised, vexed, pursued, hustled, beaten up, garroted. I had to look that one up because I didn't know what it was. It's not nice. Yeah, it's really old school. Imprisoned, shot, machine gun, what's the terminology? Machine gun, judged, sentenced, deported, sacrificed, sold, betrayed, and to cap it all, ridiculed, mocked, outraged and dishonoured. That is government, that is its justice and morality. And that's a great quote. So yeah, I mean, after that summary about the state, the historical state and historical political system, who's up for some? Okay, wasn't wildly overcome by excitement for that. Well, I think that you'd have to have some serious masochistic tendencies to be. So maybe this guy here might be up for some of that, perhaps. He's actually kneeling on gravel. Anyway. So yeah, you'd have to be masochistic, and I'm not masochistic, although I was called you are. So the problem here with the kind of the take on kind of anarchist historical right critique of the state and political systems, but we still have like a social problem, which is kind of how can each citizen like organise collectively, so how can they deal with like disputes, and how can they legislate shared norms, work together in different collective programs and deal with violations of basically antisocial behaviour. So these are all problems that you know, although there's good critique of the state, of course, these are problems that we still need to answer in any society. So, an answer is looking at political vision. So this is just to say, even if I know who came to, well, a few people I recognise from Paracon earlier, but even if you had like a Paracon-ish society that had this, you know, democratically organised economy, so you got rid of private ownership of the means of production, you didn't have classes, and it's all very nice, you still have problems that, you know, a nice social harmony can still be broken down by a thug with a club. So this is still, it's still a problem unless you like getting club. So people need a means of resolving kind of conflicts and you know, wrongs and that kind of stuff, because disputes escalate, and I can't like overestimate that. Well, yeah, I can't overemphasize that enough, because a lot of the kind of disputes you see, like where people get killed, they often start off over such really small kind of issues. So unless you have a way of adjusting this kind of, you know, when people feel that they've been wronged, unless you have some kind of way of addressing that, then disputes escalate and they get ugly. There's a need for norms for cooperation. So in a kind of complex society, particularly, well, actually any society really, but large-scale societies in particular, with loads of different diverse people and groups, there needs to be some kind of norms for cooperation. So here, kind of idea of, you know, it's not that we want, you know, all sorts of freedom. It's not that I want, you know, we want in a good society the freedom to murder people or the freedom to run red lights. But we want the freedoms that basically will lead to greater freedom, so that will increase our options. Because if you don't have those, then you can get this kind of situation. So this is just to say that, you know, we don't want the freedom for everything. Okay. So thanks for the laugh on the page. So polity, why we need it? Because, you know, why? What do we need polity? Well, here's a few issues. So animal rights, whether you should eat meat or not. Pornography. I saw what was it called in the when I went to the toilet? It's freedom porn, anarchist porn. It was advertised in the toilet. So yeah, I mean, just even kind of within any like good society, if you had Paracon, there's still these issues that will be needed to be debated and you know, kind of yeah, discussed. So prostitution, you know, deep ecology. So, you know, should we save the planet beyond what we need from the planet? You know, just because it has value itself. Drugs, of course. Foreign policy. If we're in a say
would there be foreigners in the future society?
Would there be foreigners?
Yeah.
It depends on your.
Would there be nations?
I haven't really quite got to that yet, but it would depend on your definition of foreigners. It would depend on your social identity. So if you categorise as, say, an English person, then you would consider a French person a foreigner. So yes, but I think you're probably alluding to things like immigration and perhaps to international organisation.
If there wasn't any, you know, would there be nations in the future? That's what I'm saying. Because if there wasn't any nations, there wouldn't be foreigners.
Are you asking for a prediction or what I would like in a good world? At the moment, I'm just doing a political.
Well, it depends.
It's
if
quite
the
hard.
vision is, the vision is like beyond where we are now.
Okay,
yeah.
So yeah, this is a reason why you would need a polity, because you'd have to make decisions just like that. So about international integration. So say you had a society that had a Paracon, so this lovely democratically organised economy, you'd have to decide how you're going to like trade with other economies that aren't Paracon. And it may be that those that are making moves towards Paracon, you prefer to you know, help and support, show solidarity basically. So these are all the exact reason why you need a polity. So yeah, so foreign policy, international trade and immigration. Just to quickly address your issue as well, there is a chapter in Realising Hope about internationalism, so about, you know, kind of looking at UN structure and how participatory societies could interact internationally. I'm not going to get into that right now because I have to actually go through polity first. We're making sense.